Hi, Timothy Totten here, and I'm back with the show. Now, I want you to know that I am a former TEDx organizer. I organized 8 TEDx events, bringing more than 100 speakers to our stage, coaching them through their process. But now that I've passed that off to my successor, I am so excited to be able to help people just like you become the speaker you've always wanted to be and deliver your idea on the world's most influential stage. And so in this show, I get to talk to people who have already done that. So we get to see how they got there and where it has taken them and how their ideas have been able to change the world. I'm so lucky to be joined on today's show by a good friend of mine, also a 3-time TEDx speaker, an author, an amazing a professor. I mean, there's so many things. So let's just get right into it. Let's welcome Katie McCleary. There's no, there's
Hi,
no,
Tim.
there's no people to clap, unfortunately, but it's okay. They're doing it. They're doing it wherever they're listening to this podcast. Y'all be careful on the treadmill as you listen and try to walk and listen at the same time. Katie, it's really exciting. I personally got to watch one of your TEDx talks, and it was about the importance and power of writing by hand, using by handwriting, how powerful that is. It's the one that has touched me the most. But you've given 2 others as well. But even before you were giving TEDx talks, you were in this. So tell me a little bit about your background and what led you to the TEDx stage.
Yeah, so essentially, I spent 10 years in public education, and my job was actually to run after school mentoring programs. So I was always sort of out there recruiting people, which involves a lot of public speaking, right? You need to build vision, give people ideas, and then do a call to action to your cause. From there, I founded a nonprofit, a really innovative literacy nonprofit that is rooted in writing by hand and getting kids to share their vulnerable stories and learning how to listen to other kids. We see literacy rates skyrocket. So I had to build vision there. I had to raise millions of dollars. And I come from working class, and at one point we were unhoused. And so I had to learn how to speak in order to influence people. From there, I wrote a book about leadership. I had a podcast on our NPR affiliate in Sacramento. I'm a professor, I'm a teacher. And so TEDx, when I kind of sat and thought about well, what do I want to do next? I feel like I have an idea to spread that matters, and I loved speaking, but TEDx took me to a whole other level, like a whole new level.
Yeah, so you had I know your book actually came first. You wrote that with a partner. You wrote the book Bridging the Gap, brought to us by published by McGraw-Hill. So congratulations on that. I know one of your TEDx talks deals with that particular subject. So you kind of had 3 TEDx talks, bam, 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 almost, which is very unusual for people. One of them solo. So that's the one I really want to talk about. When you decided that you wanted to give that talk, uh, in that creative writing field and in that portion, how did you go about it? What did you look for as how you might look for TEDx events to apply to and what you'd be talking about?
Yeah. So, there's so many angles that I could have taken that talk. And there's a lot of talks out there about the power of storytelling, authenticity, all that stuff. And so originally, my speech was sort of around how writing saved my life and what I saw happen at 916 Inc. However, when I started applying to places, I got quite a lot of hits. And it was actually when I met you that you were like, hey, love your stuff, love your story. And I actually think if you moved this direction, you have an idea worth sharing. What it's going to require is that maybe you take some of your personal story out of it and
Mm.
focus on this very specific thing. Um, and so I was so grateful for that advice because I think that actually made a world of difference and it differentiated me from other speakers. The talk has gained millions of views and it's spurred me on in all these other ways. And I think it's because of that. So just to say where you think you're going to start at and what maybe I had been speaking about for 20 years, just that tweak and direction, really unlocked and changed a whole lot. And it was stickier to the audience members. It wasn't
Yeah.
about me. It's about them.
Yeah. I like to tell people that we need to take your talk from informational to inspirational. Like it's like we're taking this idea that that you can tell somebody, even taking it from the me to the us, you got to get it from. So when you, it's one of my very favorite things to do with anybody who wants to be a TEDx speaker is to find how their talk and their personal experience now applies to other people. So that when people hear that in an audience, they go, oh, here's how I would ingest this. Here's what this means to my life. And what you had applied was very much an inspirational story, and there's nothing wrong with those. But what you got to was, hey, here's how this can transform for you, and is more than just an inspirational story. It is actually highly useful. I tell people all the time to go watch your TEDx talk because I'm like, hey, you're sitting down at your computer to compose something. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. Go watch Katie's talk, then grab a pen and a piece of paper, and you will be amazed how much faster you'll actually write this thing. And they just think
Yeah.
I'm crazy at first, which is, which is one of the hallmarks of a good TEDx talk, is that it requires defending, right? Like it's something that if I told somebody, they'd go, "Are you sure?" And it's like, no, well, she is the expert, so you should go listen to her. She kind of knows what she's talking about. You did talk about
A little bit.
having, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I was
you talked
gonna say
about,
just a little bit. I mean, I think that I think that when you swim in a world in a marketplace of ideas, right? And now we have sort of AI machine learning that is just going to regurgitate popular content and it's just going to be noise after a while. What we really have to find and value now is the unique human thing, the unique lens, the differentiation that is not just easily accessible on Google or through AI. And so, I've written with over 10,000 people. I've lost count. I'm sure I'm in the 30,000 range now or more. And that doesn't include like people who've seen me on podcasts or NPR or PBS or stuff like that. Um, and it's like, oh, well, what's the difference maker? It is writing by hand and getting really reluctant people who feel like their handwriting sucks, people who feel like they hate writing, like just just do the most human thing in the world. Like we're the
yes,
only creature on earth that writes.
yeah.
Seriously. So let's do like the most human thing ever and let go. And then it's like magic. And it's so easy. It's so easy and simple and it's free.
So that video has been seen, like you said, millions of times. People have really taken that in. In fact, all of your videos have actually done really well. Obviously, you know what to bring to people. But that idea sounds so simple, and yet you're saying when you get people to do it. So I want to talk about how your idea has changed the world. What change have you seen because of that? And then we'll talk about the good benefits to your career. But I'd love, first of all, I think people get into giving a TEDx talk, many of them because they want something that improves their career. But I want to help people find how that idea is going to change the world. So how is it the world changed because of your idea?
Well, so I never, ever, ever tire of someone saying, oh my God, I saw your TED talk and you gave this gift back to me of what I had forgotten. Many of us do actually, as we're growing up in life, scribble, we doodle, we
Yeah.
write, we draw, we get antsy and busy. It's something about returning people home to that. It's like
Mm.
almost like mission slip giving. So I've had a lot of people, in particular women, cry and just say, you have no idea that you helped me remember what I can do. I think the other way that it's really changed the world is that I'm in professional learning and development. And so, there's a lot of like soft skills that are actually some of the most toughest skills to learn, which is how you show up matters. Do you know your story? Do you know how all of that informs who you are and how you connect with other people? And so I've been able to bring into these like workshops, like little handwriting snippets, and they always look at my TED talk because it's always like front and center on my bio before I go in. And so what I see happening within like corporate cultures, for-profit entities, even just like schools, nonprofits or whatever, is that you give people 7 minutes to write in a room, silent altogether, and you just hear the little scribbles. There is a very connective magic that happens. It's a moment where people kind of just are people and they're able to filter out and say what they really want to say and convey.
Mm.
And I've seen trust build from that. I've seen cultures improve from that. So I think that that's one way. And then 916 Inc., my nonprofit. I mean, we now run in 3 different cities. We partner with over 135 schools. About 8 to 10,000 kids a year experience our method and become published authors. They all know the power of writing by hand, giving yourself over to the journal, and that your voice and your story matter. And like, there's no greater joy than that. It's just not. Like, that's a heart that just like beats outside of my heart. Like, I feel so honored to be able to like do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine when you hear a quiet room with just scribbles that it's like one of the best sounds for you ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
Now I'm like uh convinced that I've got to make all of my clients, my coaching clients, write their ideas by hand. It's one of the things that, I write all the, when I'm having a session with somebody, I'm writing out all those notes by hand, but I want to start giving them that homework assignment. I'm going to make them do that.
Good. And you know what? The editing time will be shorter when they transfer that handwriting into the computer. That's your editing revising moment. That's not the origin
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. It's so
And then
good.
on the memorizing side, when you have to memorize your speech because you want to be so like polished and on it and know it up and down, I have people rewrite out their speech as a way to memorize and seal it inside you. There's a whole bunch of research about that. That's why, in the olden days when kids got in trouble, they had to do 100 lines of "I will
Yeah.
not steal. I will not steal." Literally, it is cementing neurological pathways in our brain.
That is so smart. And it makes sense when you think about it. You just have to spend that moment thinking about that. Now, I know how you've been changing the world with this, and you are out. It's fun trying to schedule these kind of things with you because we're both so busy, right? Like, which is so good. Like, I'm like, every time you go, well, I really can't do it until 3.5 weeks from now. I'm like, yes, she's busy. I love because you're changing the world. How has this changed? How is giving a TEDx talk? And yes, you've given three, but I think it would be the same whether there was one or three. How has
Yeah.
giving a TEDx talk changed your professional life and helped you meet those career goals that you had in mind when you decided to apply?
Yeah. So my first book is a business communication nonfiction book, right? It's published by McGraw-Hill. It goes out to academics and CEOs. Honestly, Tim, that's not really who I am. I am a creative, conscious-based, very heart-centered leader, and I I want to be in mind, body, spirit. That's really where I should be, is mind, body, spirit, and
Mm,
and self-help sort of stuff. So I think that my writing by hand talk has spurred my next book, which I have just finished putting all the sample chapters and the book proposal together. My agent, I'm so lucky that my agent actually spends 60% in nonfiction and 40% in mind, body, spirit nonfiction.
oh,
And
good.
we can make that leap over. Um, and so that's where I'm at now. Like, I really want to reach into the hearts of like everyday people, not just like professionals who are also everyday people, by the way.
Sure.
Um, but I think that I'm super excited to make that transition and journey from, the boardroom into back into community, which is honestly where I started from, which again is that moment of just like coming home to myself.
Yeah.
And if I'm being really honest, I hope this book, um, which is based off this idea called Sonder, which we could talk about or not talk about, but it's amazing. But it's just the idea that everybody has a story and that's it. Like, pretty much like witness and listen, and that connection will come that people want. But um, I often say that I think my real job in life is to walk people home, that Ram Dass quote. And I think that handwriting, story, authenticity, just compassionately loving yourself and knowing that your story makes you so strong in who you are, that I hope that I'm going to walk people home with it. So there I am.
Well, obviously those doors have opened for you to be able to do that. And having a successful book already certainly is going to help you, as your agent goes out taking you. What would you say to those people who might go, well, I know I want to give a TEDx talk. It's something I absolutely want to do. I absolutely have to do it, but they don't know what their idea is yet. Do you think, and this is, I'm shamelessly trying to say I have good services for this. I'm good at this part, but they don't have to seek out me, although I would love for them to. Uh, does it matter if you don't necessarily have your idea figured out right away? Like,
No, because here's the deal. So I also coach a lot of people who want to write books. They come up and say, "Oh my God, I want to be a writer. I want to be a speaker. How do I do that?" Well, guess what? It is a big, noisy world and marketplace, and you need a navigator
yeah,
because there's a lot of competition out there, a lot of people who will sell you snake oil. There's all different levels and echelons of where do you want to publish and what audiences are you trying to reach? And are you trying to become a professionally paid speaker? Like, and then there's these hallmarks along the way. And honestly, the TEDx stage is a hallmark. Like, you can't actually be taken kind of seriously once you want to have speaking agencies represent you if you haven't done a TEDx talk. You'd have to be a mega influencer and
yeah,
have a platform already. The TEDx is a platform that can give you the things that you need to sell a book, get an agent. And so I it is a long process. Like, you've got to be dedicated to it. So do you need to have your idea down? No, because guess what? You probably have 5, 6, 7, a million ideas. And what happens in my line of work is that people come to me and they say, "I have a book." And then I say, "Tell me what your book is about." And it is, da, 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 da. And I'm like, "Wow, you have 4 books." And like, "What?" You
yes,
cannot fit all that material into one book. Your audience cannot hold it. You can't. So the good news is, and this is the thing that you got to say the good news is. The good news is you have 4 books and not one. So where are we going to start? And it is a
yeah,
creative process to unfold. We need partnership. We need navigators. Like, artists do not create in a container by themselves. There's a whole industry around it. So you got to be
yeah.
collaborative in your idea making.
In my last year as a TEDx organizer, where I was, helping people get onto the stage and choosing those people to go onto the stage. It was impressive to me to find, we would find those diamonds in the rough and go, your idea is not quite perfect, but here, this is what we'd like to see on our stage. And we had people, if they were open to it, could make that switch, right? Make that change. And I've helped some people who were looking to get on the TEDx stage and to apply, and I would help them figure out I've helped them figure out that their idea maybe is either too generic or too much like something everybody can give. You want to make that idea something that only really you can give, and it's sticky, just like your handwriting idea. The other part that amazed me is I started asking our TEDx speakers, our applicants, did you get any coaching for this in advance? And it was surprising to me how many of the ones were on our final list to consider had used somebody else. Like 80% of them had used some type of a coach,
Yeah.
which I found really interesting. So there are certainly people out there that sell snake oil, but there are also people doing really good coaching out there and helping people to get to make themselves better. It's important to note, and I make this very clear whenever anyone comes to talk to me, is the only person that can put you on a TEDx stage is a TEDx organizer.
Yeah.
I'm not a TEDx organizer anymore, so I can't do that, right? Somebody who's people with some of these bigger organizations that put you through a whole process, they can't put you on the stage because they're not TEDx organizers. And there's not a TEDx organizer who wants to keep their license that would also get paid to coach somebody and put them on the stage. That's why I can't do both at the same time, right? You can't do both. So there's no way to guarantee you're getting on the stage, but we can help you get the best chance of getting on that stage, especially because the stages are so different. You've been at 3 TEDx's. I don't want you to throw anyone under the bus, but did you notice a difference in the way each of those TEDx organizations worked?
Every single one worked differently. So here's what I'll say. Everybody needs a thought partner in creative work. So you got to hire the right coach. And a coach is not going to promise you the moon, promise you this, promise you that. A good coach is going to push back. They're going to dig in. They're going to be that collaborative thought partner, and they're not going to promise anything on the other end except for a great experience with you. So 1, that's how you tell snake oil from the real people. And then 2, yeah, every single TEDx stage has been completely different. So I actually think doing a lot of homework ahead of time about where you're going to apply, or having a navigator or a coach help you know which are the ones to do. You got to look at previous video footage, because that video quality, your speech can be amazing. If the video quality is not there, then it's really hard to create a sizzle reel to get people to watch it. Like it'll be cringy, like just point blank. Like you got to choose the right stage. And honestly, Tim, I would never do 3 TEDx talks again. It's not worth it, to be honest. And I was happy with the 2 because they were very different. All 3 are really different, but the 2 are very different. I would say that I didn't have a good experience at 2 of the ones that I did. Yeah.
Mm.
My handwriting one, I had a great experience. So I'll just shut up and say enough about that.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for saying that.
Mhm.
No, there's definitely a difference between them. Yeah,
There is.
and you
You can
can,
see the video.
yeah. Yeah, that's sort of where the
Yeah.
proof is, isn't there? That you can. I tell people you could apply to every TEDx event you see, and if you didn't have somebody helping guide you where to apply, you might apply to 80 TEDx events, and then you end up in the basement of a rec center with a drop ceiling in front of construction paper letters. And I'm not saying any of that to downplay those TEDx events, because every
Yeah.
TEDx organizer is working from a place where they are volunteering and working hard, and they have a team, and maybe their team is quite small. Maybe they don't give individual coaching. Those are understandable. But at the same point, it's like it depends on what you're using your TEDx talk to do, especially the amount of time and effort you're going to put in it. So talk to me, the experience you had with your handwriting talk, which I was part of that experience for you. Tell me a little bit about what that looked like. Like, there's a time commitment. And did you feel
Yeah.
like it was necessary to spend that much time?
Yes, it is necessary to spend that much time. So here's the deal. Everybody looks for a shortcut in life. Like our brain and our body is tuned to create shortcuts, to not expend energy. If you really want to give a good speech, if you really want to write a good book, guess what? Your life is about revising and editing and tightening and doing different angles and practicing and getting feedback. If you are not psychologically flexible enough to do that, it's not for you. Now, you can do it in all other kinds of ways, but when you're trying to do like the thing, this is the game and the work you're in. So even for me, knowing all of this, Tim, my speech drastically changed from application to draft 1 to draft 2 to draft 3. Around draft 4, it starts getting dialed in. Draft 6, draft 7, tight, 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 tight. Around draft 7, you are in it and you're committed to it. That's about right. Most other people, and I have 20 years experience and have an MFA in writing. And I teach it at the university level. Most people are going to be in it for 12 to 15 drafts. I met a woman who did over 30 drafts
Wow.
with her coach. And by the way, she spent like $70,000 to do that. And she didn't get the video she wanted at the end. She was not at your event. So, just know all writing is rewriting. And so you got to be psychologically flexible and open to it enough. A lot of people are just super wed to that idea, that first draft, that story. That's why Hemingway said you had to kill your darlings. That is a part of the thing that we're in. So I have a lot more to say about that, but it is a long process. However, the process is rich. It's engaging. It makes you stronger. That's what
Yeah.
you got to be in it.
Also, I think one of the hardest parts for people to get is learning that you've got to memorize it so well that you move past memorization to internalization, which I think is where the
Yeah.
handwriting really comes in. When you're writing that out by hand, and you're getting to where it can finally become something that a TEDx talk, a good one, is. They're really quite conversational in a way that doesn't sound memorized. The best ones. Obviously, some of them
Yeah.
are,
For
you could go to the YouTube channel and look at TEDx talks and see ones that aren't as well done. But the ones that stick with us, that we remember, really do have that sort of conversational tone where we feel, and they don't sound like other speeches. And so when people say to me, it's going to take me 6 months to write and memorize this and internalize it, I'm like, yeah. And it'll be worth
Yeah.
it because you'll be able to give this talk at what are the odds that right now, if I said you've got to stand up and give your TEDx talk about handwriting again, could you maybe start dial in most of the words and get it pretty much?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. I think it's about, you're right, that internalization. You know your stuff. And for me, it's about the bridges and the transitions. Bridges and transitions create natural flow. And so when you nail the transitions and the bridges and you can take that pause and be really natural on stage, like your job is to connect with that audience member and then all the audience members to see like, man, like she's like speaking into me right now.
Yes.
If your brain is caught up in the next thing you have to say, no, like you have to just keep track of those internalized bridges and moments so that your cadence on stage is correct. And that takes mastery. It takes effort to get to that place. But my God, when you are on the other side of it, it's so comfortable and natural. I mean, like, I feel like one of my greatest gifts and strengths right now is that anybody could throw me up on a stage without any preparation and I have 4 different speeches in my back pocket to mold to the audience that's sitting in there. Am I talking to community bankers today? Or am I talking to really burnt out high school teachers?
Yes.
Right? The craft is to be able to mold it and still influence and impact that particular audience. And you can't do that without 6 months to a year of work.
Interestingly, I don't, our time's running out, so I want to cover this last part real quick. It's the other
Yeah.
part of how do you like um, learn to distill and only maybe cover one idea. You talk about people coming to you with books and they have 4 books in mind. It is hard to get people to say you're going to have this opportunity again. So it's really
Yeah.
valuable to present a TEDx organizer one really interesting, sticky, great idea, and then that's going to open up other avenues. So for you, you already published a book, you have other accomplishments, but you get these TEDx talks, the first one and then a couple more, and it just continues to grow. You're seeing, I would assume your audiences have all gotten bigger, your opportunities have gotten wider, and you've already got a second book on the way. I can't wait to see, all the great things that you do next. Any last piece of advice you would give to somebody who's interested in becoming a TEDx speaker, what they should, maybe their next step should be?
I think their next step is to figure out who their thought partner and coach is going to be. Let somebody help you on this journey. Invest in it. It's worth it. I think the second thing is don't bring the entire kitchen sink to the organizers or the speaking agents or the literary agents you want in the world. You get one shot. It is an elevator pitch in 30 seconds. If it's handwritten, you get a half a page. So that's why you need to be tight. It's one idea. Everything else can wait. Guess what? You have all that richness for later in life that you're just going to nail the first one. It's going to lead to the second opportunity. It's going to lead to the third. And you need material. Don't give it all away at once.
That is fantastic advice. Well, I've been so lucky to be joined by my friend and an amazing thought leader out there in the world, Katie McCleary. And I hope maybe we'll do this again at some point and share even more of our fantastic ideas.
I would love to. I would love to do that. Lots to talk. You're always delightful to be with, Tim. Thanks for pushing me too.
Thank you, Katie.